Cousin called me at midnight to babysit her grown kids. I said no, chaos followed, and now I have a restraining order. What would you do if your family drama spiraled into something far darker than you ever imagined? When Vanessa filed a restraining order against her cousin's grown kids, she thought she was setting boundaries. But as she gathered evidence to protect herself, she uncovered something shocking: stolen credit cards, fake online accounts, and a viral video exposing their true nature. What started as a fight for peace turned into a revelation of chaos, forcing Vanessa to make an impossible choice. A family meeting. A confrontation. And the ultimate fallout. Did Vanessa go too far, or was she finally standing up to a toxic situation? One thing is certain: nothing will ever be the same again. Watch the full story unfold. The shrill ring of my phone jolted me awake. Blinking against the harsh glow of my bedside clock, I squinted at the time: 12:07 a.m. My first thought was panic. Midnight calls were rarely good news. I groggily reached for the phone and saw Stephanie's name flashing on the screen. My cousin. A call from her at this hour could mean only one thing: drama. Hello? I croaked, sitting up and bracing myself for whatever emergency she was about to unload. Vanessa. Stephanie's voice came through the line, frantic and high-pitched. Thank God you picked up. I need a favor. A huge favor. I rubbed my eyes, trying to force my brain into wakefulness. Stephanie, it's midnight. What's going on? It's an emergency, she exclaimed, her words tumbling over each other. I need you to come babysit the kids. I blinked, convinced I'd misheard her. Babysit? I repeated. Stephanie, your kids are adults. There was a beat of silence on the other end, followed by a defensive huff. They're not that grown. Hunter is 20, and Kaylee's only 18. They still need supervision, Vanessa. Supervision? I asked, incredulous. What are you talking about? You're their mother. Handle it. That's the thing, I can't, she wailed. I have to leave tonight for a work thing. Something last minute. And I can't trust them alone. You know how Hunter is. He'll throw a party the second I walk out the door. And Kaylee, well, she's a handful, to say the least. I sighed, pinching the bridge of my nose. Stephanie, this sounds like a parenting issue. Not my problem. Vanessa, please, she pleaded, her tone bordering on desperation. You're their aunt. Family helps family, right? Just a few hours, that's all I'm asking. They trust you. They'll listen to you. I couldn't help but laugh bitterly at that. Hunter and Kaylee didn't listen to anyone, not even Stephanie. They were infamous for their antics, Hunter with his constant scheming and Kaylee with her unpredictable mood swings. Stephanie, I have work tomorrow, I said firmly. I can't just drop everything because your grown kids can't be left alone for a night. You don't understand, she snapped, her tone turning sharp. If Hunter throws another party, the neighbors will call the cops. And Kaylee? She'll probably set something on fire trying to cook. I need you, Vanessa. Her words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I closed my eyes, torn between frustration and guilt. You know what, Stephanie? I said, my patience finally snapping. No. I'm not coming over. Your kids are adults. If you don't trust them, that's on you. There was a stunned silence on the line, followed by an audible gasp. Vanessa, Stephanie said, her voice cold now, I can't believe how selfish you're being. I thought I could count on you. You thought wrong, I said, my voice firm. Good night, Stephanie. I ended the call before she could respond, tossing the phone onto my nightstand. My heart was pounding, a mix of adrenaline and anger coursing through me. As I lay back down, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling in my gut. Stephanie's emergencies always came with fallout, and I had a sinking suspicion that I hadn't heard the last of this one. My mind wandered to Hunter and Kaylee. The thought of them left unsupervised made me shudder. Hunter had a knack for turning the most mundane situations into chaos, while Kaylee's impulsive nature made her a walking disaster. But they were not my responsibility. I pulled the covers over my head, determined to get some sleep. Whatever happened next was Stephanie's problem. Or so I thought. The knock on my door was loud and furious, shattering the quiet of my morning coffee. I flinched, nearly spilling the mug in my lap. A glance at the clock told me it was barely 8 a.m., and I hadn't even started my workday yet. Knock. Knock. Bang. I sighed, setting the mug down on the counter. The only person who knocked like that was Stephanie. When I opened the door, there she was, a storm of rage wrapped in yesterday's smudged eyeliner and a wrinkled jacket. Her chest was heaving as though she'd run all the way here, and her face was twisted with fury. "How could you abandon me like that?" she screeched, her voice echoing down the hallway. I blinked, still groggy from sleep and unprepared for the hurricane that had just blown into my doorway. "Good morning to you too, Stephanie. What are you talking about?" Her jaw dropped as if I'd just asked the dumbest question in the world. "Last night, Vanessa. The emergency? The babysitting? The favor I begged you for?" "Stephanie, I told you no," I said, keeping my voice calm despite her volume. "I'm not your backup parent. Your kids are grown adults. They don't need a babysitter." Her eyes flashed with indignation. "Oh, really?" "Because Hunter threw a massive party after I left, and the neighbors called the cops." "And Kaylee?" "She tried to help clean up the mess and ended up flooding the laundry room. Do you have any idea what kind of morning I've had?" I stared at her, incredulous. "And this is somehow my fault?" "Yes," she shouted, throwing her hands in the air. "If you had just helped me, none of this would have happened." I leaned against the doorframe, crossing my arms. "Stephanie, you're really blaming me for your kid's behavior? Hunter is 20 years old, for God's sake. He should know better than to throw a party. And Kaylee? She's 18. She can't figure out how to do laundry without flooding the house." Her face reddened, but she didn't back down. "You don't understand what it's like, Vanessa. You don't have kids. You don't know how hard it is to deal with them on a daily basis." I bristled at her tone. The implication was clear: because I was single and child-free, my time and energy were somehow less valuable than hers. "You're right, Stephanie," I said, my voice icy. "I don't have kids. But you know what I do have? Boundaries. And I'm not about to sacrifice my peace just because you can't handle yours." Stephanie's expression darkened, her anger simmering just below the surface. "Unbelievable," she muttered, pacing back and forth in front of my door. "You're so selfish, Vanessa. Family is supposed to help each other. That's what family does." Funny how help always seems to mean drop everything to fix Stephanie's mess, I shot back. She stopped pacing, glaring at me. "I can't believe you're making me the bad guy in this. Do you know how embarrassing it was to come home to a wrecked house and the cops on my doorstep? And then to have Kaylee crying about how her Aunt Vanessa doesn't care about us?" I flinched, but only slightly. "Don't do that," I warned. "Don't try to guilt-trip me with your kids. This isn't about me not caring. It's about you refusing to hold them accountable for their actions." Stephanie's face twisted with frustration. "They're just kids. They're adults." I snapped, my patience finally cracking. "And the sooner you stop treating them like toddlers, the sooner they'll stop acting like ones." Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. For a brief, blessed moment, she was speechless. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Look, Stephanie," I said, softening my tone slightly. "I get that you're overwhelmed. I get that you feel like you're drowning. But that doesn't give you the right to dump your problems onto me." Her expression shifted, a flicker of something vulnerable crossing her face before she masked it with anger again. Fine, she said stiffly. If that's how you feel, don't expect me to ask for your help again. Good, I said, stepping back into my apartment. Because I'm not offering it. I closed the door before she could respond, leaning against it as I exhaled deeply. My heart was racing, my hands trembling slightly from the confrontation. I wanted to believe that was the end of it. That Stephanie would storm off, simmer down, and deal with her own problems for once. But as I stared at the half-finished cup of coffee on my counter, a gnawing sense of unease settled in my stomach. Stephanie's tantrums always left a mess in their wake, and something told me this one was no exception. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. By mid-afternoon, I had almost convinced myself that the morning's confrontation with Stephanie was behind me. The door slam had felt definitive, the argument a clear end to a ridiculous situation. I sank into the couch with a cup of tea, determined to salvage what remained of the day. Then, the doorbell rang. I frowned. No one ever dropped by unannounced, except Stephanie, and she'd already used up her drama quota for the week. Still, I approached the door cautiously and peered through the peephole. Hunter and Kaylee. My stomach sank. With a resigned sigh, I opened the door. Hunter, towering at 6 feet with a cocky grin plastered across his face, leaned casually against the doorframe. Kaylee, her dyed pink hair pulled into a messy bun, stood beside him, holding a duffel bag. What are you doing here? I asked, already bracing for whatever nonsense they were about to unload. Mom sent us, Hunter said breezily, brushing past me into the apartment. Kaylee followed, offering a half-hearted shrug. She said it's our punishment or whatever. I turned to stare at them, dumbfounded. Punishment? For what? For last night, Hunter replied, flopping onto my couch and kicking his feet up on the coffee table. She said we're your problem now. I blinked. She what? Kaylee rolled her eyes as if this were all perfectly normal. You know how she gets. She's mad about the party and the laundry room and whatever. She said you abandoned us and you should make it up to her by babysitting us. They're adults, I muttered under my breath, echoing my words from the night before. What was that? Hunter asked, glancing up with a smirk. Nothing, I snapped. Look, you can't just show up here. I have work to do, and this is not my problem. Kaylee plopped down on the couch beside Hunter, pulling her phone out of her pocket. It's just for a few hours. Chill out. Against every instinct screaming at me to throw them out, I sighed and let the door swing shut. Fine, I muttered. A few hours. That's it. Big mistake. It didn't take long for things to spiral. Hunter, apparently bored with sitting still, began wandering the apartment, opening cabinets and drawers like he owned the place. Hey, where's the good stuff? He called out from the kitchen. What are you talking about? I asked, following him. You know, snacks. Drinks. Anything fun. This isn't a minibar, I snapped. If you're hungry, grab a granola bar and sit down. He ignored me, rummaging through the fridge until he found a 6-pack of craft beer I'd been saving. Found it, he announced triumphantly, popping one open. Before I could stop him, he was texting someone. A few minutes later, there was another knock at the door. Who's that? I asked warily. Oh, just a couple of friends, Hunter said with a shrug. My jaw dropped as 2 of his buddies sauntered into my apartment, carrying a speaker and a case of cheap beer. Within minutes, my living room was transformed into a makeshift party zone. Music blared from the speaker, the coffee table was littered with empty cans, and Hunter was acting like the host of a frat house kegger. Meanwhile, Kaylee had made herself comfortable in the kitchen, helping herself to my leftovers and raiding my snack drawer. I walked in just as she was pouring herself a glass of wine, spilling half of it in the process. Kaylee. I snapped. What are you doing? She looked up, completely unfazed. What? Mom lets me have wine sometimes. That's not the point. I said, grabbing the bottle and putting it back in the fridge. "You're making a mess." As if on cue, she knocked over her glass, red wine soaking into the pristine white fabric of my couch. "Oh, crap," she said, giggling nervously. I stared at the stain, my blood boiling. "That couch cost me 2 months' rent." Kaylee rolled her eyes. "Relax. It's just a couch." I stormed back into the living room, determined to put an end to this madness. "Everyone out," I yelled, glaring at Hunter and his friends. "This isn't a party, and you're not staying here." Hunter smirked, leaning back in the chair. "Mom said you'd take care of us," he said, his tone dripping with mockery. "Yeah," Kaylee chimed in from the kitchen. "She said it's your job since you bailed on us last night." I clenched my fists, seething. "Your mother has no right to dump you on me, and I never agreed to this. Now get out before I call the police." Hunter's smirk faded slightly, but he didn't budge. "Chill, Vanessa. We're not hurting anything." I pointed to the wine stain on the couch. "Not hurting anything? That's your sister's mess." Kaylee peeked out from behind the kitchen counter. "I said I'm sorry," she mumbled, clearly not sorry at all. By the time the sun set, my apartment looked like a hurricane had hit it. I was out of patience, out of energy, and ready to scream. This wasn't just a mess. It was an invasion. And I was done being the doormat. "Fine," I said through gritted teeth. "If you won't leave, I'll make you leave." Their laughter stopped abruptly as I grabbed my phone and started dialing. "Who are you calling?" Hunter asked, a hint of unease creeping into his voice. "The police," I said coldly. "You've got 5 minutes to get out before they get here." Their expressions shifted, a mix of disbelief and panic. I didn't care. I wasn't bluffing. And for the first time that day, I felt like I was finally taking control. By the time the clock struck 10:30 p.m., my apartment felt like a war zone. Hunter and his friends were sprawled on the couch, shouting over the pounding bass of their portable speaker. Kaylee was huddled at the kitchen table, scrolling on her phone and occasionally dipping her fingers into the bowl of popcorn she had appended onto the table. My patience was hanging by a thread. I paced back and forth in the hallway, my phone clutched in a death grip as I dialed Stephanie for the 3rd time that evening. She picked up on the 2nd ring. "What now, Vanessa?" she snapped, her voice dripping with exasperation. "What now?" I repeated, incredulous. "Stephanie, your kids have turned my apartment into a frat house. Hunter invited his friends over without asking, Kaylee's wrecked my kitchen, and they won't leave. This isn't babysitting, this is an invasion." Stephanie groaned. "Oh, come on, Vanessa. They're not that bad. You're being dramatic." "Dramatic?" My voice rose, and I didn't care if the kids in the next room heard me. "Hunter is drinking my beer and throwing a party in my living room. Kaylee spilled wine all over my couch. I need you to come and get them, now." Stephanie's response was infuriatingly casual. "I can't, Vanessa. I'm exhausted. I deserve a break after the week I've had." I stared at my phone, dumbfounded. "You deserve a break?" "Stephanie, I have work tomorrow. I can't just sit here babysitting your grown kids because you're too lazy to deal with them." "Lazy?" she shot back, her tone sharpening. "I'm a single mom, Vanessa. You wouldn't understand what it's like to do this all on your own." "Oh, don't pull the single mom card," I snapped. "This isn't about being a single mom. This is about you not parenting your kids. They're adults, Stephanie. You're treating them like toddlers, and now you're making it my problem." Her tone turned icy. "You know what, Vanessa? If you're going to be so selfish, then maybe I'll just stop asking you for help altogether." "Good," I shot back. "Because I'm done being your backup parent." The line went dead, and I stared at my phone in disbelief. Stephanie had actually hung up on me. I stood in the hallway, seething. The music from the living room pounded in my ears, amplifying my fury. This was my home, my sanctuary, and it had been hijacked by a pair of overgrown children. Enough was enough. I stormed into the living room, clapping my hands to get their attention. "Party's over," I shouted. "Hunter, get your friends and get out." Hunter looked up from his phone, his expression a mix of amusement and defiance. "Relax, Vanessa. We're just hanging out." "This isn't up for debate," I snapped. "You and your friends are leaving. Now." One of his friends snickered, muttering something under his breath. Hunter smirked. "What are you gonna do? Call Mom?" "No," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I'm calling the police." That got their attention. Hunter's smirk faltered, and his friends exchanged uneasy glances. "Whoa, no need to get the cops involved," one of them said. "Then get out," I said, pointing to the door. Muttering complaints under their breath, Hunter's friends gathered their things and shuffled out, shooting me dirty looks as they passed. With the party finally dispersed, I turned to Hunter and Kaylee. "Your turn," I said, crossing my arms. Kaylee looked up at me, her eyes wide with mock innocence. "You're kicking us out? Where are we supposed to go?" "Home," I said firmly. "Where you should have stayed in the first place." Kaylee's lip trembled, and tears welled in her eyes. "You're so heartless, Aunt Vanessa. Mom said you'd take care of us, but all you've done is yell at us." My patience snapped. "Kaylee, I'm not your mom, and this isn't daycare. You're 18. Start acting like it." Her tears turned into angry sniffles, and she stomped off to the kitchen, muttering under her breath. "Hunter," I said, turning to him. "Go." But instead of heading for the door, he grabbed a soda from the fridge and strolled into the bathroom, slamming the door shut behind him. I stared at the closed door, my jaw tightening. "Hunter, what are you doing?" "Taking a break," he called through the door, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Hunter, open the door." "Nope," he said cheerfully. I pounded on the door, my frustration boiling over. "Hunter, I'm not playing games. Get out of my bathroom." "Make me," he taunted. From the kitchen, Kaylee giggled. "This is kind of funny," she said, popping a handful of popcorn into her mouth. I turned to her, my voice low and firm. "Kaylee, pack your things. You're leaving." She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "You can't kick us out. Mom said we're staying." "Watch me," I shot back, grabbing my phone. I dialed Stephanie's number again, fully prepared to unleash hell. She didn't pick up. Of course she didn't. By midnight, I was done. My living room was a mess, my couch was stained, and Hunter was still locked in the bathroom, singing loudly enough to be heard through the door. This wasn't just disrespect. This was a circus. But I wasn't about to let them win. "Hunter," I said, my voice cold and steady. "You've got 10 minutes to come out, or I'm calling the police." His singing stopped. "You wouldn't." "Try me," I said. Kaylee stopped giggling, her expression turning serious. "Aunt Vanessa, come on. You're not really gonna call the cops on us, are you?" "Watch me," I repeated, dialing. Hunter's voice came through the door, tinged with panic. Wait. I'll come out." I smiled grimly. Finally, some progress. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The first thing I noticed when I woke up was the obnoxiously loud voice echoing down the hallway. It wasn't mine. It wasn't even Kaylee's. It was Hunter's. Still groggy, I groaned and rolled over, but the noise persisted. "Yo, guys, check it out." Hunter's voice boomed, followed by a cackle. Frowning, I sat up and strained to listen. My heart sank as I realized the sound was coming from my bathroom. I stumbled out of bed, padding down the hall toward the half-open door, where the muffled voice became clearer. Day 2 of being held hostage by my crazy aunt. Hunter said dramatically. Can you believe this? She's out here acting like a dictator. All I wanted was to chill with my sis, and now she's threatening cops on me. I froze. He was streaming live. I pushed the door open and found him sitting on the edge of my bathtub, his phone propped up against a soap dish, broadcasting to what looked like dozens of viewers. The comments on his screen whizzed by faster than I could read, but the emojis and LOLs were unmistakable. What the hell are you doing, Hunter? I barked. He grinned, looking directly into his phone's camera. Oh, here she is, the tyrant herself. Turn that off. I snapped, marching into the bathroom. Chill, Aunt Vanessa. My fans love this, he said, leaning back and smirking. Fans? I repeated, incredulous. You're not a celebrity. You're a freeloading 20-year-old locked in my bathroom like an overgrown toddler. The comments exploded on his screen. LMAO, she's unhinged. Auntie got no chill. Best stream ever. I saw red. Behind me, I heard Kaylee giggling, and I spun around to find her standing in the doorway, phone in hand. Kaylee, I said sharply. What are you doing? Documenting this for Mom, she replied, biting back a grin. Put that down, I ordered. You're making it worse, she said, as if she were the voice of reason. No, you're making it worse, I snapped. Both of you are. Hunter, get out of my bathroom, and Kaylee, stop filming before I... What? Hunter interrupted, his voice dripping with mockery. You gonna call the cops again? Do it. I dare you. That'll make the stream even better. His arrogance tipped me over the edge. I turned on my heel and marched into the living room, grabbing my phone. My hands trembled as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? The dispatcher asked. My cousin's kids have locked themselves in my bathroom and are refusing to leave my apartment, I said, my voice shaking with a mix of anger and humiliation. I need them removed immediately. It didn't take long for the police to arrive, their flashing lights reflecting off the walls of my living room. I opened the door, trying to explain the situation as calmly as I could, though my words came out in a rush. They're my cousin's kids, but they're adults. Hunter's 20, Kaylee's 18. They showed up uninvited, wrecked my apartment, and now he's locked himself in my bathroom, live streaming this circus to the internet. The officers exchanged a look. Let's take a look, one of them said, gesturing for me to lead the way. When we reached the bathroom, Hunter was still midstream. Oh, great, she actually called the cops, he said, gesturing dramatically at the officers. This is insane. All because I didn't clean up a little party. Sir, one of the officers said, his tone firm, turn off the camera and step out of the bathroom. Hunter hesitated, looking between me and the cops as if weighing his options. Do you want us to make this worse for you? The second officer asked, crossing his arms. Hunter sighed dramatically and ended the stream with a flourish. All right, no need to get crazy. He stood and walked out of the bathroom, looking smug as ever. Kaylee was still filming the scene on her phone until one of the officers told her to put it away. We're not here to be on Instagram, he said. Once they were both corralled into the living room, the officers took statements from each of us. Hunter, ever the performer, launched into a tale of woe. She invited us over, then freaked out when we stayed a little longer than she wanted. She's been yelling at us all night, threatening us. I don't feel safe here. I gasped. That's a complete lie. Kaylee chimed in. She's been so mean to us, and we didn't even do anything that bad. The officers exchanged another look. Miss, one of them said, turning to me, it sounds like this is more of a family dispute than a criminal matter. If you want to prevent this from happening again, I'd recommend filing a restraining order. A restraining order? I repeated, stunned. Sometimes it's the best way to avoid repeat incidents, he said with a shrug. After what felt like hours, the officers escorted Hunter and Kaylee out of my apartment. As the door closed behind them, I sank onto the couch, my entire body trembling from the stress. The wine stain on my couch, the chaos in my bathroom, the pile of empty snack bags on my counter, it all felt like a monument to the madness they'd left behind. But as I sat there in the wreckage, one thing became clear: I wasn't letting this happen again. If a restraining order was what it took to reclaim my peace, then so be it. The restraining order had been filed, the paperwork stamped and official. I should have felt relief, but the fallout started almost immediately. My phone buzzed incessantly, notifications flooding my screen. Voicemail after voicemail, all from Stephanie, each one more furious than the last. "Vanessa, how dare you do this to us?" one began, her voice trembling with rage. "You're tearing this family apart. A restraining order? Are you serious? You're making me and my kids look like criminals." I deleted that one without finishing it. Another started with mockery. "Oh, I see how it is, Vanessa. You can't handle a couple of kids for one night, so you run to the cops like a coward. Pathetic." Delete. The final straw came when I opened a text message from Stephanie that simply read, "You're dead to me." I blocked her number. But the silence didn't last. The calls started coming from other family members, relatives I hadn't spoken to in months, some even years. "A restraining order? Isn't that a little extreme, Vanessa?" Aunt Lisa's voice crackled through my voicemail. "Hunter and Kaylee are kids. They make mistakes. You're the adult here." Uncle Rick chimed in on another call. "Stephanie says you've always been selfish, but I never believed it until now." Even my own mother called, her tone a mix of disappointment and disbelief. "Vanessa, this is your family. You don't just give up on them. How could you do something so drastic?" I buried my face in my hands, the weight of their judgment pressing down on me. No one asked for my side of the story. No one seemed to care about the wine-stained couch, the trashed bathroom, or the fact that I'd been humiliated on Hunter's live stream. To them, I was the villain, the unyielding, heartless aunt who had abandoned her family. The tension came to a head at a family gathering 2 weeks later. I almost didn't go. But staying home would have only given them more ammunition to use against me. So, I put on a brave face, walked into my cousin's overly decorated living room, and prepared for the worst. Stephanie spotted me the second I walked in. She didn't yell or scream. She didn't have to. Instead, she launched into a performance worthy of an award. "Well, well, well," she said loudly, ensuring the entire room could hear. "If it isn't Saint Vanessa, here to grace us with her presence after traumatizing my kids." Conversations around the room fizzled out as heads turned toward us. I took a deep breath. "I didn't traumatize anyone, Stephanie. I set boundaries." "Boundaries?" she repeated, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Is that what you call calling the cops on your own family? Filing legal action against your niece and nephew?" Hunter, lounging in a corner with his phone, smirked and raised it slightly. I realized with a sinking feeling that he was live streaming the confrontation. Again. Stephanie continued, her voice growing louder. "Do you have any idea what you've done to my kids? They're devastated. Hunter can't even show his face around his friends without being mocked." "Yeah," Hunter interjected with a chuckle. "They call me restraining order boy." "Thanks for that, Aunt Vanessa." I turned to him, my anger flaring. "Oh, so it's my fault you turned my apartment into a circus and locked yourself in my bathroom while mocking me online?" Hunter's smirk faltered, but Stephanie was quick to jump in. "You're supposed to be the adult," she snapped. "They're just kids." "They're not kids." I shot back, my voice rising. "They're adults, Stephanie. Adults who should know better than to behave like that. And maybe they would, if you actually held them accountable instead of dumping your responsibilities onto me." The room was silent for a moment, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Then, Kaylee sniffled dramatically from the other side of the room. "She hates us," Kaylee mumbled, dabbing at non-existent tears. I told you, Mom. Aunt Vanessa's always hated us. I pinched the bridge of my nose, trying to keep my composure. I don't hate you, Kaylee. But I'm not your mother, and it's not my job to clean up your messes. Wow, Hunter muttered, shaking his head for the benefit of his live stream. Just wow. I glanced around the room, looking for even one sympathetic face. But all I saw were judgmental stares, disapproving headshakes, and whispered exchanges. No one cared about what I'd endured. To them, Stephanie was the victim, and I was the villain who had disrupted the family dynamic. I stood tall, refusing to let their judgment crush me. I did what I had to do, I said firmly, addressing the room. I'm sorry if you don't like it, but I'm not sorry for protecting my peace. With that, I grabbed my coat and walked out, leaving the murmurs and whispers behind me. The fallout wasn't over, but as I stepped into the crisp evening air, I felt a flicker of relief. I had drawn a line. And while it came at a cost, I knew it was a price worth paying. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about reclaiming my life, on my terms. The lawyer, a sharp-eyed woman named Erica, sat across from me, flipping through the paperwork I had brought. We'll need to solidify your case, she said, her voice calm but firm. Restraining orders hold more weight with evidence. Do you have anything beyond your testimony? I nodded, pulling out my phone. Hunter live-streamed himself mocking me in my own home. Kaylee recorded everything for their mother. I have texts, videos, and, let's just say I've got plenty of receipts. Erica leaned forward, intrigued. Send it all to me. As I combed through my files, something gnawed at me. Hunter's cocky smirk, his blasé attitude, it all pointed to someone who thought they were untouchable. And Kaylee, always deflecting blame, seemed to enjoy the chaos too much. I dug deeper. It started with a simple reverse search of Hunter's social media profiles. What I found left me speechless, a string of fake accounts linked to his email. They ranged from harmless pranks to outright scams. I felt my stomach churn as I stumbled upon a thread accusing him of stealing credit card information. Screenshots detailed how Hunter used stolen cards to fund his antics, buying everything from sneakers to gaming consoles. As if that weren't enough, a viral video surfaced, Hunter trashing someone's apartment during a party. Kaylee wasn't much better. Her accounts were littered with thinly veiled posts about selling answers to tests and bragging about tricking older relatives into sending her money. I sat back, horrified. Stephanie's constant excuses, her refusal to discipline them, it all made sense now. She wasn't just enabling them, she was blind to what they had become. This isn't just bad behavior, I told Erica the next day. It's criminal. Erica nodded grimly. This changes everything. It was time the family saw the truth.